Welcome back to the Authentic Online Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Ruthie Gray, and you're listening to a new author. This is launch week. I just released my third book, but first hard copy, and it's called Empty Nest Awakening, Weaving the Threads of Your Passions into Purpose. Woo! I'm so excited, y'all. If you've been listening in the last few months and weeks, you know that I've been gearing up for this. And I want to share today a little bit about the book, about my passion and why I wrote it. You know, I'm an online marketing coach. That's what I do. I market and I teach people how to market online. For me, it comes easily. It's like second nature. And it's been really easy for me to launch this book and market this book. And that's why I like to share my gifts with all of you, because I feel like people need to know about your work. They need to know about your book or your podcast or your product or your ministry. What are you doing? And in my book, Empty Nest Awakening, it does hint at some of that. You may wonder why a marketing coach would write a book about empty nesting. But here's the thing. My clients and the people who come to me to learn about online marketing and Instagram and email and all of the related topics and how to run a business, they're my age. They're empty nesters. That's why I felt confident to release a book about empty nesting and finding your passion in the second half of life. So if you're interested in my book, and I hope you are because you're listening, I want to share some insider knowledge with you, read a little bit out of the book, maybe pique your interest, and even share some insider tips on how to launch your book. Oh, and by the way, you can order the book now. Go to Amazon, Walmart, Target, Books A Million, Barnes & Noble. We're everywhere. Empty Nest Awakening, Weaving the Threads of Your Passions into Purpose. You can get it on Kindle or you can get a hard copy. We will leave the links in the show notes as well, of course. So let's get on with today's show. And now, listen in.
Welcome to Authentic Online Marketing with Ruthie Gray. Growing awareness for your blog, podcast, book, or product involves more than dancing to reels and yelling, "Buy my thing." This show models quality over clamor so you can put your spin on your message and market in a way that feels authentic to you, because nobody wants to sound like an infomercial. And now, here's your host, Ruthie Gray.
You get two chances at life. The first half is the one in which you raise your kids. The second is your choice. Let me clarify. Some of us chose to marry and have children. I know I did. In fact, aside from the goal I set at age 4 to be a concert pianist, all I wanted in life was to be a wife and mom. If you're like me, you were a good mom. You poured your heart and soul into raising those kids to love Jesus and be good humans, to love each other and treasure family. You carted them to sports events, sleepovers, and the pet store every Friday after school. See, kids, it's just like the zoo. Have a blast. This way we didn't have to buy the pets. When I brought each of my 4 babies home from the hospital, I was overwhelmed every single time. You know those people who say, "What's one more kid?" I wasn't one of them. Each child is unique in personality, performance, and demand. As an introverted mom, that demand part threw me for several loops. As my 4 grew, I studied how these 3 areas played out in their lives, determined to do my best to raise well-rounded children. I also prayed a lot. "Just wait for the teen years. You ain't seen nothing yet," other parents would warn me, eyebrows arched knowingly. But when the terrible teens showed up at my house, they weren't terrible at all. I admit I'm biased, but I think teenagers are some of the funniest humans on the planet besides toddlers. We had our rough patches, of course, but for the most part, those parenting years were my favorite. I wasn't the mom who cried when her kid learned to walk, lost his first tooth, or graduated kindergarten. I celebrated. In my mind, growth leads to independence. When everyone can bathe, shower, and feed themselves, there's more time for moms like me to recuperate from all the social interaction. From what I've observed, extroverted moms may have a bit more trouble letting go of the stages, but they are terrific cheerleaders, celebrating with gusto each milestone their children achieve. Throughout it all, I knew it wasn't all about me. It was exciting for them, too. Watching their strengths and character develop, their abilities flourish, and their social lives thrive gave me great joy and hope for their futures. After all, they would be on their own someday, and I wanted them to fully function in society without having to call my husband or me every time they made a decision. Then one day, it happened. It didn't hit me until the middles left home. Our oldest was married but living in the same town. Our youngest was just entering high school. The two in the middle were 3 years apart, but both took off for college in 2 different states at the same time. I was thrilled when their college acceptance letters arrived. We shopped for dorm linens, scoured their rooms for decorations and touches of home, and mapped out the closest outlet malls for when I came to visit. For me, not the kids. But once the flurry of packing, moving, and settling in passed, the house quieted. Then it was too quiet, and I got lost. Don't get me wrong, I still mothered my one at home. She was pretty fun, in fact. We had good times with homeschooling, reading Pride and Prejudice, and laughing over our shared math deficiencies. But it hit me that before long, she would leave too. And then, what was I going to do? What would my purpose be once my empty nest was empty? Since you're reading this book, I'm guessing you can relate. I've never been one to be idle. Even when I'm watching television, I have a cross-stitch project, a crossword puzzle, or a book in hand. During this season, though, I found myself staring out windows and watching football. That might not sound odd, but I'm not a sports person. In all the years my husband and son enjoyed professional football and college basketball games together, I blocked it all out. But at that point, I stared at young men in colorful jerseys, watching them chase each other around a field without really seeing. For the first time in my parenting career, I also became a worrier. I never used to waste time on anxious thoughts, but now my precious children were loose in the big bad world. They were working late nights, locking up stores like American Eagle and Panera Bread. How was I to know if they made it home safely? What if someone broke in? What if they got mugged? What if there was a car wreck? Would anyone notify us? Can I get an amen, anyone? Then grief set in. This surprised and confused me. I was happy for my kids, for crying out loud. I didn't fully understand it at the time, but I was grieving the loss of the way things used to be. An era had passed, the best one of my life to that point. The sleepless nights walking floors with babies, cleaning vomit, and getting scared by sleepwalkers were gone. I had done my job and done my best, but what was my job now? I honestly didn't know, but I knew I needed a purpose. I always have. Rarely do I approach someone without an intentional word. I don't walk out in my yard just because, and I hate grocery shopping, so I'd better have a good reason to be in Kroger. If this sounds like you at all, or someone you know, may I encourage you to pick up your copy of Empty Nest Awakening and start weaving the threads of your passions into purpose. This book has been my heart and soul for the last 9 months. It started with an outline, a glimmer, input from my email readers and Instagram followers, brainstorming, talking with Mindy Kiker of Flourish Writers, taking her self-publishing masterclass, chatting with my editor, Lois Flowers, doing a super rough draft that was just like a bunch of word vomit, handing it over to her and saying, please, Lois, make some sense of this. Am I repeating myself? What doesn't sound right? To my absolute delight and surprise, she came back telling me that it actually did make sense. And she said, I don't know if it's your background in piano, but chronologically, each chapter flowed one into the next. What a compliment. It made me feel so good. There was something at least. And Lois was able to share what didn't make sense, what needed reworded, or where I had, in fact, repeated myself. So I went to work again, editing, rewording, cutting, and adding an introduction and a conclusion, and sent it off to my friend, Daleen Bickle, who did the final edits. She turned that book around to me in record time, and before I knew it, I was ready to send the book on to Mandy Robertson of Market Refined Media. Market Refined Media is a hybrid publishing company offering all kinds of services. You get to pick and choose what you want. I chose for them to create my cover, to format my book with my input on illustrations I'd like to see, as well as offering my own website colors, fonts, and design ideas. For those of you who are trying to juggle all the balls, may I recommend highly Market Refined Media for your publishing needs. They are a delight to work with and super communicative. As far as the book launch, it's been amazing. It's been easy. And next week, I want to share some ideas with you about how to make your launch successful. In fact, I'm going to break it up into 2 sessions. One is going to be about the launch, and the next one will be about reverse engineering your launch, which is basically what I did. I built my platform first, and then I launched my book. And may I just say, I am convinced that is the way to go. For those of you who are just starting to build your platform and you're trying to launch a book, be patient. And if you're even thinking about launching a book, build that platform now. Get in community, get in my trainings, Authentic Online Marketing School. It's self-paced. And once you've completed it, you can transition into my insider mentorship and get input from me on how to grow your Instagram and your email list. So don't be shy. Come and see what we offer at AuthenticOnlineMarketing.com. And in the meantime, pick up a copy of my book, Empty Nest Awakening, Weaving the Threads of Your Passions into Purpose. Until next week, be sure to share your message your way in your own authentic voice.